Welcome back to arpeggio yoga. Welcome to Splitsville. Start in an easy seated position. Find a comfortable balance on your sits bones. Palms down on your knees, on your thighs. You can have your ankles crossed or one in front of the other. Rising up through the spine. Lifting all the way through the crown of your head. Your gaze is gently forward or slightly down in front of you. Welcome to Splitsville, population U. This is going to be a challenging program for me as well. I decided to do this particular sequence to work on the hamstrings and particularly to work towards being able to do the splits, something I've not done before. I've not practiced the sequence yet to see if I'll be able to do it. So wherever you're at is fine, because I'm coming at this wherever I'm at, which is unable to do splits. But the only way to get there is to go through these hamstring stretches, some of these various lunges and crescent lunge poses, and one day we'll get there. So this may be a practice we come back to a couple of times. And we'll see if by the end of our 21 sessions, to kick off 2021, if we're all in a place a little bit closer to the splits. If nothing else, it'll make for some interesting blooper reels. Let's get moving. Let's move to the front of the mat into a tabletop position. And keep the toes tucked, and let's just warm up the wrists first with a few motions forward and backward. Gently warming up those wrists. If you haven't warmed them up already, if you need a little bit more of a warm up, feel free to pause the video or check out one of my other videos that goes a little bit deeper into this warm up. Point your fingers off to the sides. Move side to side or in circles. If you're moving in circles, change the direction now. That full range of motion of those wrist bones. Finally, you can point your fingers back toward your knees and go through a series of bending and straightening your elbows to really stretch out the inside of your wrist, the back of your wrist, and the inner forearm. Excellent. Do whatever else you need to warm up those wrists, as we'll be in downward facing dog and planks and whatnot. I've just found if I don't warm up my wrists first, I risk injury every practice, and it can be debilitating for a few days of a pinched nerve or something going on in there. So to avoid it, I spend a little bit of extra time warming up those wrists up front. Now back to the tabletop position. Your wrists are positioned beneath your shoulders. Splay your fingers out, almost like gripping a basketball. Untuck your toes now. We'll go through a series of a few cat and cow poses. On an inhale, tilt your pelvis forward, lower the belly, wave through that spine, rising up through the chest. Last thing that comes up is your gaze and your head. And then on an exhale, tilt the pelvis backward, suck the navel in toward the spine. And the last thing that bends forward is your neck, letting your head just let gravity pull it down. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Do two more on your own. Waving through the spine. and then meet back in tabletop. From tabletop, tuck the toes, lift the knees, and take the hips up and back to downward facing dog. Straight line from our heels to our hips, and then from our hips down to our wrists. And this is where you take some relief, or give some relief to your wrists by gripping the mat like you would a basketball. As this is your first downward facing dog in the practice, let's step the calf muscles, alternate the step, stretching those calves, and settling back into downward facing dog, and gaze forward, and slowly step your way to the front of your mat. Hang here in this forward fold. You can grab opposite elbows, just let gravity do the work here. Slight bend in your knees, don't lock the legs out. And a little swaying back and forth. Feel that stretch through your lower back, through your hamstrings, through your calves, all the way down to your heels. Take a look at what's going on behind you, upside down. It's always good to gain a different perspective on things. All right, let your fingers dangle and slowly rise all the way up. Slight back bend. Bring your hands down through heart center and to your side to mountain pose. From here, we'll do sun salutation B. On an inhale, sit down into your chair position. Knees are tracking forward over the tips of your toes, settling down through your hips, so you can take it down just a little bit further. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, flat back. Exhale, step both feet back, left foot and then right foot. And for this first one, go ahead and put your knees down to the mat, untuck the toes, and lower your body all the way down to the mat. Rest of your chest on the ground or on your mat. Inhale, just lifting the shoulders and chest. You'll feel it tighten through the glutes, through the lower back, central back. Low cobra. Exhale, tuck the toes. Push back. Lift your heels, or lift your hips up and back to downward facing dog. Gaze forward. And inhale, place your left foot at the base of your left thumb. Inhale, rise up to a high lunge. Exhale, fold. Take your left foot back alongside your right and lower chaturanga through your flow. Either low cobra or upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. Gaze forward. Lift your right knee towards your chest and place your right foot at the base of your right thumb. On an inhale, rise up to a high lunge on the right side. Settle down through those hips. Feel that stretch in your inner left thigh, in the groin, hip flexors. Feel it all through that hip socket, through your glute. Reframe the right foot. Return your right foot to your left and lower down through your flow. And we all meet back in downward facing dog. And step to the top of your mat. Flat back. Forward fold. Inhale, set your hips back into chair. Let's hold this for an additional breath. See if you can sink a little bit lower into the chair. This is the only sun salutation B we're going to do today. And rise back up to mountain pose. From mountain pose, let's step to the wide side of your mat. Take your feet wide. They can either be straight or slightly angled out, your toes. And let's do this wide-legged forward fold. Your palms can come to the mat, the ground in front of you. You can point your fingers backward. You can deepen the stretch a little bit by doing this. Bending forward at the waist. Slight bend in your knees. Be a pretty intense stretch on the backs of your hamstrings, depending where you walk your fingers to. Let's take a few breaths here. By bending your elbows, keeping your palms on the mat, you can bring your upper body down a little bit more. It intensifies that stretch. I'm feeling it. This is what we need to do to get to a split. I'm excited to see where our split is today in episode 5 and where it is by episode 21. Excellent. If you turned your fingertips back, bring them back to the front, palms beneath your the gaze of your eyes, your face beneath your head. Keep a slight bend in your knees and slowly rise back up. Let's step your feet in slightly. Now we're going to do a half wide leg forward fold with your hands on your hips this time. So gently, slight bend in your knees again. Bending forward at the waist, hands on hips. They remain on your hips the entire time. This challenges your core a little bit more. Still getting the benefit of the stretch through the backs of your legs, all the way down to your ankle, your heel, through the calves, through your hamstrings. It engages your core just a little bit more as well. Excellent. Carefully, slight bend in your knees. Rise slowly up at the waist. Wonderful. Now we're going to drop into a garland pose, a squat. If you need, you bring your feet in a little bit closer. Bending at the knees. Elbows will be inside of your knees. If you need a block, you could set a block beneath you if you're not quite to the point of being able to stay balanced in the squat. Hands in prayer, you can push out slightly on your inner knees. We'll stay here for a couple of breaths. Again, doing squats every day can be very beneficial to your lower back, to increasing your ability to go into a split. Again, we're going to see what that does for us in a moment. Sinking into those hips. These are muscles guys don't use a whole lot, I've found. So putting some extra focus in this area is good for us. We're going to do a revolve squat now. Placing your left hand in front, reaching your right arm up. Gaze goes out over to your right fingertips. Bring your palms back center. Right arm out to the side. Left arm up in the air. Couple of breaths here. Hands back center. Let's do this one more time. Left hand out to the side. Right arm in the air. Back center. Right arm to the side, right hand to the side. Left in the air. Gaze goes out over the left fingertips. Bring it back. Let's go ahead and sit back a moment. If your hips are like mine, you'll appreciate another easy seated position to release some of that. How about from this easy seat, let's lean forward into a forward fold. Get your hands out in front of you. And walk it back up. We're going to go back into a wide-legged squat over one leg, also known as Savasana. Some call it the Spider-Man pose. So let's go back up to a wide-legged stance. And take that squat down to one side. You may want to walk your left foot out a little bit further, wherever you're able to get to. Hands inside your right foot. The more you can get over the foot, the better. The further down you can lower down, the better. I'm not quite there yet. Taking the hand out on the other side, maybe get me a little further, but I want to get that stretch inside that right thigh as well. Bring it up, go to the other side. All parts of the hamstrings getting stretched through this sequence, prepping us ultimately for our first attempt at the splits. Excellent. Go one more time to the right. And one more time to the left. Awesome. From here, we're going to make our way back down to the mat to sit. Easy pose. Let's bring your right heel into your groin. Left leg out to the side. Body is upright. Spine is straight. Right foot into the groin. Left leg extended, sitting upright through the spine. And a revolved bend to the left. Shoulders are open, chest is open to the front of the mat. You can grasp the ankle with your foot or with your hand. And reaching that right arm over the left. Return to center. Bring the left heel into the groin. Extend the right leg. Rising up through the spine. Right hand goes out towards the right ankle. Shoulders are open, chest is open to the front. And we're bending to the right. Excellent. Come back up. From here, let's get to tabletop. A couple more cat-cows to release some of that tension we have built up in our lower back. An inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Tuck the toes, lift the knees, take it back to downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, lift your left leg in the air, keep the foot flexed.
Take a couple of breaths here. Slight bend in your right knee. Make sure your hips are both even and parallel to the mat. You're not turning your left hip up. Now, on this variation, we will rotate that left hip up. Bringing it back, placing the left foot to the base of the left thumb, and rising up to a high crescent lunge. So right knee is bent slightly, arms are straight up, palms facing each other, rising straight up through the spine, through the crown of the head. A couple of breaths here. Now, reframing that right foot into runner's lunge. You can use blocks if you need here. If you need to extend the length of your arms. Don't take the knee too far past 90 degrees. Certainly not past your toes. Settle into this runner's lunge. If you're using blocks, let's set them aside now. Replant the hands into half pigeon. So the knee is pointed forward, the left foot pointing back. Set your right knee down, untuck the right toes, and come upright in half pigeon. And then you can lower down. Place your forehead on the backs of your palms in front. One more breath here. Excellent. Let's bring it back upright. Tuck the toes, lift the knees, and bring it back to downward facing dog. Why don't you go ahead and walk that out? I'm feeling a little bit in that left hip. That's a good walk out. Won't cure. That left knee to chest and in the air. Whatever you need to do to shake that one out. Now from downward facing dog, lift that right knee. Take that right foot back, three-legged dog. Keeping those hips parallel to the mat. And then on a variation, bringing that heel toward your sacrum and lifting the right hip, opening it up to the side. And now bringing the hips back parallel, stepping through, right foot to the base of your right thumb. And inhale to a high crescent lunge. That left knee's bent slightly. Spine straight up. Arms straight up overhead, palms facing each other. Now reframe that foot into a runner's lunge. Either palms on the mat or using blocks if you need to extend the length of your arms. Don't forget to breathe. This is getting heated up. I'm feeling it. All right. Now if you're using blocks, return them to the side. And we're going to go into half pigeon on the right side now. Set your knee down, untuck your left toes, rise up, half pigeon on the right side. Keep breathing. And then one palm on top of the other. If you remember what you did last time, alternate it. And rest your forehead on the backs of your palms. We'll take a couple of breaths here. Take one more breath here. Plant the palms. Tuck the back toes. Lift the knee. And let's take it back to downward facing dog. You can walk this out. Walk the dog. You can lift your right leg up in the air. Bring your knee to your chest a couple of times. Shake out that hip. Turn to downward facing dog. On an inhale, lift your left knee towards your chest. Plant it to the base of your left foot. Rise up to a low lunge. Rest your forearm on your left knee, above your left knee. Right leg is straight. Toes are tucked. Now bend the right knee slightly. Lower the palms. Sorry, microphone adjustment. Lower the palms to the mat. If you can't reach, you always have your blocks. Slight bend in the right knee. This is a low crescent lunge. And now straighten the left knee to this hamstring stretch on the left side. Let's take that back and forth a couple of times from this low crescent lunge. Taking it back, hamstring stretch. Bending over that left knee. One more time. Back to this hamstring stretch. You can step your right foot back a little bit more. Here it goes, kids. We're going into that split. Or as far as we can get. Bringing that back. You can rock your heel forward. I'm going to keep using the blocks. If you don't need them, set them aside. Don't hurt yourself. Please don't pull a hammy on me. Untuck those back toes. See how far you get. I've got video evidence of how far I am right now. We'll have video evidence again in about 16 practices from now. And I suspect we'll be a lot closer to the splits than I am today. You might want to pause this afternoon and have someone take a picture of you for some measurement of where you're at. All right, let's carefully come out of this. Bring that heel back. That's why they call it a sticky mat, right? Let's get back to that runner's lunge. And now back to downward facing dog. Oh, you can rock those hips side to side. Didn't feel bad. I'm not gonna say it felt great, but I know it's gonna improve. It's already improved for me. All right, raise the right leg up. Step the right foot to the base of your right thumb. Come up now to low lunge on the right side. Excellent. You can take your hands down, slight bend in your left knee to that low crescent lunge, and back to a hamstring stretch on the right side. Use blocks if you need. As we take this back and forth a few times. Forward to the crescent lunge, back to the hamstring stretch. Either knee bent or straight on the left leg. Whatever feels best for you. It's going to change the stretch. One more. Forward. Now let's untuck the toes. Slide that foot back a little. Walk the right foot forward. Come back up on the heel. Can rock it forward. I don't know about you. This side feels a little bit better for me. I'm still not sitting flat down in the splits, but I can feel that we're getting there. All right, here's proof. One day they'll be completely flat, arms will be in the air, and a big grin on my face. Today, this is as far as it is. This is going. Now let's carefully, probably with the 8 of blocks, bring that back to a safe position. Back to that low crescent lunge. Take the right foot back to downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, let's walk it forward and walk your legs through to a staff pose. And from staff pose, let's just lay back. Put yourself on the mat. Bring your feet up. Make your knees about a 90-degree angle. Feet are out to the edge of the mat or close to it. We're just going to windshield wiper our hips a few times. Our knees left to right. It's like the windshield wipers of old. You may have a fancy car that wipes different than this. Feel that femur, feel that ball socket joint in the hip work through its range of motion. We can reduce a lot of injuries by increasing our flexibility in our hips, guys. Oh, man. And you'll be the life of every party once we're back to having parties with strangers, impressing them all, and you're able to do the splits and not injure yourself in the process. All right, bring the knees back up. As we've done in previous practices, one of my favorite spinal twists, plant the palms on the mat, plant the flats of your feet on the mat at about the distance from your butt as the tips of your fingers to your heels. Plant the palms, lift and shift your hips to the right 3 or 4 inches. Drop your knees to the left. Place your hand over your right knee, your left thigh. Start that spinal twist from the sacrum up through the mid-back. Keep your shoulders flat to the mat. Your chest is shining forward, shining up. Finally, the twist goes through the neck to the base of the spine, or the base of your skull. Cactus your right arm out to your side, and the gaze goes out over the right fingertips. This feels especially good right now. I'm glad we did this practice. Take a few breaths here. If you want to do the splits, this is one of the processes you'll need to go through to get there. You can't just wish it, so it's not just going to happen. So I'm glad I embarrassed myself with my inability to do a number of these poses. I dread editing this video, but it's well worth it, because I know on practice 21, when going to see some results. All right, slowly unwind that. I'm going to sit in that a little longer this time. And lift and shift your hips back to center. Plant those feet, replant the hands, lift and shift 3-4 inches to your left. Lower your knees to the right. Right hand goes over that right thigh, left knee. That twist begins at the sacrum. The spine is bisecting the mat lengthwise, twisting up, mid-back. Shoulders are both pinned to the mat, so your chest is shining upward toward the sky. Final bit of this twist goes through the neck, looking out over your left arm, over your left fingertips. That's where your gaze is going. Twisting all the way from your sacrum, twisting to the right, to the base of your skull, twisting left. Taking a last look at this grapefruit tree. This will probably be my last recording from sunny Arizona for now. And I'm hoping one of those guys is ripe so we can have some fresh grapefruit tomorrow morning for breakfast. Looking forward to that. This is my favorite twist. I've never been a big fan of twists, particularly when dealing with the spine. I've had spinal issues, still have spinal issues, but this certainly helps release tension and toxins that build up in your spine. Wonderful. All right, slowly release that. Plant the palms. Get yourself centered again. Why don't we bring our knees to a chest for one last wind release pose. And rock out that sacrum. I play a little bit of hockey as well. This is a really good sequence to do to prepare for hockey practice. Let's settle now into corpse pose and Savasana. Go ahead and rock your legs, rock your feet side to side. Find a center position for your legs for this final pose. Shake the hips side to side, let them settle, let your sacrum settle flat to the mat. I can roll my shoulders up, back and under my chest, shoulder blades underneath the chest, palms are up, arms are to the side of slightly. And I rock my head side to side and just let it wobble to a centered position. We are in Savasana, corpse pose. It's final resting pose, but it's a very active resting pose. If you forgot to breathe this entire time, then you're probably not hearing me right now. You may not have been breathing properly, but you were still breathing, so you're still alive, you're still with us. But corpse pose, take a focus back into your breath, slow it down. Got heated up during this practice. Slow down that breath and take your focus back to the breath, back inward. Let your body begin transferring everything it learned today to your mind. Storing that knowledge for future practices. My hamstrings, my glutes, my groin, they're talking right now. They're sending some messages to my mind. You're saying, why? Oh, why did we do this? It's not a bad practice for your daily tasks that you need to do. Pick that task that you least want to do. Maybe it's the toughest. It's probably the one you need to do most, but you've been dreading. But take that one. Take that task, do it first. So this is our 5th practice of the year. We didn't do it first, but I think we did it when we needed to do it. Keep breathing. If your focus shifts, you can count the length of your inhalation. And make your exhalation match that same number of counts. Slow down your breathing. Increase your heart rate. Listen to your body. Really listen and pick up on those lessons from today's practice. If you need a little bit more time in Savasana, you can pause the video now. Take that time. Resume when you're ready. For the rest of us, let's take one more deep breath in. And release that. Now let's extend the arms up over the head. A deep inhale, stretch from your fingertips reaching out, like Superman doing the backstroke. Tips of your toes pointing the opposite direction. Big inhale, hold it. And release. Let's do one more. Big inhale in, stretch out. Hold it. And release. When you're ready, roll to your favorite slide into a fetal position. Rest here for a couple of breaths. And as you're ready, come back up to an easy seated position. If you haven't already done so, you can open your eyes. Eyes up through the spine. I thank you a lot for joining me in today's practice. This was a new one to me. I've been avoiding any work on the splits for a very long time. Thought it was about time to do it. I didn't want to just practice all of that on the side to try to impress anybody before I did it and do a practice on the YouTube channel. I thought I would bring you along for the embarrassment. You don't get seen. There's no judgment on your end. Please leave comments. Let me know what you thought of today's practice in the comment section. Be sure to like this video, share it with others, subscribe to the channel, share the channel with others. There are links in the description section to various arpeggio yoga merch that's available. Also, the t-shirts that I wear typically come from threadless.com or $6 tees. I put links to those in the comments or in the description as well.
I have no affiliation with any of those companies, but I get asked often from folks where I get my t-shirts, and so I'll just drop that in there. And the other gear that I use, I put links for those as well. So again, thank you very much for sticking with me. We're already through 5 practices of our 21 for 2021, and I can't wait to see you in the next practice. Until then, be well. Namaste.